Welcome to DynamicsCon. I'm really excited to be presenting my session with you here today around Power BI. First of all, I'd like to thank the Dynamics user group for putting on this amazing event, and of course to the community for voting in my session. I can't wait to share with you the presentation that I have for today. A bit about me, my name is Rishona Elijah, and I'm coming to you from Sydney, Australia today. I work at a Microsoft partner, Barhead Solutions, as a Power Platform trainer and evangelist. I love to talk about the Power Platform, and my usual job at work is to run training and events around these tools. I love to show people what you can do with this technology, and it's something that you can definitely get excited about. My session today, I'm going to go through Power BI, 7 less known features and tips. I wanted to showcase features of Power BI that are there, but perhaps you hadn't used before. Additional things apart from simply creating and publishing a report out. So let us know in the chat which ones you like. We'll have some Q&A at the end. So as I'm going along, pop your questions, comments, and I'm looking forward to having a chat with you guys about this at the end of the session. So keep that coming as we go. By the way, you can also connect with me on LinkedIn. Feel free to drop me a message to let me know if you've come along and you've watched this session. I also have my Twitter handle down the bottom there. And I also have my blog that I started kind of new just a couple of months ago. So some of the stuff that I'll take us through today, I have on there that you can go and check out after the session as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Bit of a spoiler, but this is the agenda of the different features of Power BI I'll take us through in this session today. We'll first take a look at Power BI goals. We'll then move on to the Power BI app you can get for Teams, the Analyze in Excel capability, some design tips when it comes to buttons, and then towards the end, I've put in some things that you can do with Power Automate and Power BI together. So real-time streaming, data alert triggers, and also the Power Automate visual. To start us off, let's take a look at Power BI goals, number 1. Goals is a feature that was introduced earlier this year. It allows you to track key metrics across your organization and teams. And it puts it in the space where your data already is, in Power BI. What we get here is a simplified view where you can measure progress against goals. The example that you see here, it's about HR goals. And this is one of the scorecard samples that you can take a look at when you're starting to explore the goals feature. What you can do with this is that it allows your teams to stay proactive and on top of their KPIs. You can share updates with your teammates, monitor the health and progress, how you're tracking against the KPIs, allowing you to take action where necessary. Something to note about this though is that you do need the Power BI Premium licensing for this one. So unfortunately, if you're on Pro, you won't have immediate access to it. So Premium is the one that you need to check this out. But let's go ahead and take a look at how this works. So I'll start off here in Power BI Service. And what we'll do is that we'll head over to the goals section. Down the bottom, we have some samples that we can take a look at. So that HR one that I showed you previously is one of the sample scorecards. So you can get an idea of how you can use it. But what we're going to do here is that we'll create a new one. I have a report, which is a report that shows me, let's say I have a furniture store and the sales and the revenue, how much revenue each salesperson has generated. And I'm going to base my scorecard and my goals around that. So we can go ahead and create a new one here. We can call this one, let's say sales, because that's what it's about. We can pick the workspace that we want it to live in. Now we can go ahead and add some goals into this. For each salesperson that I have, perhaps I want to be able to track their revenue and see if they're on target. So I can put in a goal name and then allocate it to a person or to a particular team as well. So let's go ahead and enter that in. This is one of my sales reps that I have. Now, for the connecting to data, this is where we can bring Power BI data into it. Since I want to link it up to one staff member, in my report, I can go ahead and filter so I can see what the revenue has been for this person here. And then you can see it's picked up on the current value, and that's what's automatically going to get tracked in this goal that I've created now. So let's go ahead and connect that one. We can then also enter in our target value that we want to reach. You can enter these in manually as well if you wanted to, but of course it's better to connect it up to your data in Power BI. We also have these statuses that we can track it against too. So this gives you your visibility to be able to see and get that oversight into what's on track, what might be behind, and what are certain things that might need some actioning. Then of course we can go ahead and set a start date and an end date for it. Once we've created the goal, there's some further details and things that we can add to it. We can do these things called check-ins. So, as we're going ahead and the days are progressing, we can go into the goal and mark and add some notes about how we're tracking against it. That chart that you saw at the top there before, so, it has only been one day, but if this had been maybe going for a week or so, we'd be able to see that line chart change to show us how the figures and how the value has moved over time. And of course, at the top, we have this nice dashboard showing us exactly all the goals we have and then the status that's allocated to it. So we know exactly which ones might need actioning and our attention. Something that's not here at the moment, but I hear it's a feature, and when they announced this, they said that eventually you'll be able to link these up to Power Automate. So you can do some pretty cool stuff with it then. Let's say if you have a goal that's bit behind and it's not tracking well, you can use that status to kick off some flows and some processes using Power Automate. So it really opened the doors and the ability of things that you can do using the goals tool. Number 2, we now have the Power BI app that we can get for Microsoft Teams. And what this does is that it gives us an embedded version of Power BI service directly within Teams. It makes it accessible where our people are already working and really helps to facilitate collaboration and a data-driven culture across our workspace. To go and check out the app, all you need to do in Teams is just click on the apps, look for Power BI, and then we get this here. We can add it in and then it embeds Power BI right in Teams for us. We can interact with it like we would usually with Service. So if we go ahead here, we can play around with the reports and our dashboards, take a look at them. We can also edit them from here as well if we want. And the one that I've just clicked here is the Chat in Teams button. So there's some things here that makes the ability to put it into Teams to encourage collaboration here. What I've done in my report is I've gone ahead and I've filtered to one particular staff member on my report. And that Chat in Teams button allows me to have a conversation about what I'm looking at with that context around it too. So what I'll do here is when I click that, I can post a message into Teams with the link. And as users click on the link, they can see that exact context that I had on my report. So, if I want to have a chat about maybe a salesperson's performance, I can put in my message, pick the team I want to send it to. Then we can go and check it out, click on the link, and then we're directed to that exact view that I have. So it helps to foster these conversations that people have around their data as you're interacting with your reports. Here at the top, we also have the search bar. No matter where you are in Teams either, you can easily bring up where you need to go and what you want to find in Power BI. So if you're looking for a particular report, data set, or a workspace, you can just type it in the Teams search and then it will immediately take you to where you need to go. So this is a bonus one that I've thrown in. have you ever wondered how long you've been spending in those Teams meetings? I know I definitely have. Something that you can get within a click is this report that's automatically generated to show you your Teams usage. If you've tried it out, let us know in the chat to see maybe if the results surprised you or not. You can get details such as how many meetings have you been in, how many meetings have you organized, the time you've spent on camera and sharing your screen, messages you've sent, how many posts you've made, and you can also see how much engagement each team has had. So go and check it out if you haven't already. It's quite interesting stuff. Just on the Power BI app, if you go ahead to the Create area, there's just this button you can click on, Analyze in Teams, and in about a minute, you get a beautiful report that gives you all these insights. So something cool you can go and check out, compare with your colleagues, see who's been spending the most time on Teams. Number 3 now, let's move on to the Analyze in Excel capability that's there. And I'm sure we're all Excel fans here and love to use our pivot tables and charts. Give it a shout out in the chat if that's you. Power BI and Excel can seamlessly work together by using the Analyze in Excel capability. This allows you to leverage your Power BI datasets and then work with it in Excel. Here you can do things like create pivot tables, charts, and use the other Excel features. One of the benefits of this is that you can use measures created in Power BI here. And it's a live connection to the dataset. When your dataset refreshes, you'll see the changes in your Excel report too. Then, of course, your Excel report can be shared with others in your organization to use too. Let's take a look at how you can go and check out and use this feature. You can start off in Power BI Service. Then all you need to do is just navigate to the report with the dataset that you want to work with. You'll get this option to analyze in Excel, and that will create a file for you that will download with that connection to your dataset already there. The first time you do it, you might need to just install some updates to Excel, but after that point, it's pretty much good to go from that point forward. Then you can see we have our fields here available to us to use in our pivot table. So for the people who like building Excel reports and it's a familiar tool to use, this makes it a lot easier. And it's another way that you can interact and share your insights that you've made. For example, down there in my value bucket, I've gone ahead and I've moved in my revenue measure that I've created. I can do things like see the revenue per salesperson. You can also go ahead and insert pivot charts into it as well. So you can really get creative with what you want to do here and have a play around depending on how you like to use your Excel reports. You can configure it that way. Once again, this is a live data connection. When you update your data set in Power BI, it will reflect here. So you don't need to worry about, the data being old or anything like that. You can even then distribute it with other people in your organization. If you've built a report on Excel you're quite proud of and you want other people to use as well, you can just really send them a link. They can access it, use it as it is, or build their own one from this too. So some interesting stuff that you can do with bringing Excel and Power BI together. So next up, we're going to be looking at buttons here. Some design tips that I thought was interesting to share. So buttons in Power BI, you can make your reports more interactive using these and improve the user experience. It makes it feel like you're using an app, allowing you to click, hover, and interact with the content as you need. An idea that I like to make the experience feel a lot more unique is to use the one that's the blank button. With your buttons, you can do things like go back a page, navigate to a certain page or bookmark, drill through, use the Q&A, go to a web page. So a lot of, possibilities with what you can do with this. With the blank button, you can really turn anything into a button. So we have those standard icons looking there, but let's say if you have an image, you can overlay it with the blank one and turn it into a button. I had someone come to me with the idea of having an interactive process map in a report. Clicking on a stage of the process would direct users to a particular view of the report. Something like that can be achieved using the blank button. So with this, you can have any image or design that you want, and then overlay it with this clickable space. So in the picture there, and the one I'll show you, is an example of one of the reports that I have, back to that furniture example. I have these images down the side here, and what I want to achieve is that I want my users to use them as buttons. So they click on the icon, and then it's going to correspond to one of the products that I sell, and then filter the report based on that. So to start off, what I'll do is, these are just images inserted on my report. I'm going to go ahead and create some bookmarks here that's going to link up to each of the buttons. With the bookmarks, this one I'll relate to the sofa sales, another one just filtering to outdoor, bedding, and then table. So let's go ahead and create those. Once we have the bookmarks ready, we can now create our button. We can insert the blank one and then position it where we'd like, over the top of that icon that was there. We can configure the action and the look at the button. We want it to be transparent, of course, because we want to see the picture behind it. So this one will link up to the bedding sales. We can remove the background, remove the border, so edit it as we want. But we'll just keep the background on for now, just so we can see it as we're building it. Then we can go through and repeat the same thing for all the other ones here. So let's go ahead and do that. And last one, that's going to be our table sales. That's good to go. We can remove the background and it works like a button. Pretty cool. So users, from their perspective, all it is just something else that they can click on and another way that they can interact with the report. You can get quite creative with this, really put any image or any design that you want and allow users to interact with it that way. So some interesting stuff that you can have some fun with and play around with buttons. So for my last three things that I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to take a look at Power Automate and ways that we can use this with Power BI. One of my favorite things when it comes to the Power Platform is how we can get all of these tools to work together. So first up, I'm going to take us through how we can create a real-time script streaming dashboard with this. Typically in Power BI, you need to schedule a refresh. It's not always current. Even if you schedule it every hour, you aren't seeing the updates live, but that can all change using your real-time dashboards. With real-time streaming, we get immediate feedback. And this is an example from Microsoft to show you how your dashboard and what it can look like. In this case, it's monitoring things like battery levels, temperature, and other factors for machinery that might be in a factory. It's streaming this information, so we can see the current temperature, for example, as it occurs. Real-time streaming you can only get on the dashboards though, not on the reports. But what we get here is we can go here, we know exactly how the machines are running as it happens, rather than this being an hour later. We have three sources or three data sources that we can pick from when we want to create our real-time dashboard. API is the one I'll focus on today, but there's also Azure Stream and PubNub. So depending on which service you use, whether it's Azure Stream or PubNub, that's the one that you can go with. But starting off with API, I find this one is the most flexible and the easiest for anyone to start using because chances are you already have tools that you can build using this one. The API option allows you to create a push dataset. So what this does is that the Power BI API takes your data and then pushes it to a dataset for you. It's as simple as creating the columns of information you want to collect. Then you can use a tool like Power Automate or perhaps PowerShell if that's more your thing to add rows into that table. When this happens, your dashboard tiles update automatically with the new data. And the benefit of this option is also that you get historical data. You can go back in time, see what the values were, do some measurements around that as well. So we have that history of the data as it's been flowing through. With this option, we also get the full report building features and capabilities too. Full range of visuals like your maps, tree charts, pie charts. You can use measures as well, and then add that into your dashboard. It's a bit different with the other two that we have here. With these ones, there's only a few visuals that we can add onto our dashboard with this one. But with Azure Stream and PubNub, we can get continuous updates on the jobs that we have, perhaps on an IoT device. Let's say you might have a stream analytics job around data from your sensors, maybe like a sound sensor. Over in Azure, you can write a query to get what you're looking for, and then link it up to Power BI. From there, you can see the rapid change in your dashboard, perhaps how the sensor and the sound levels are moving over time. This constant and rapid flow of information is being streamed. And the benefit here of PubNub and Azure Stream is that there's less latency between your visuals getting updated compared to the API option that's there. But the example I'll take us through, and one that you'll be easily able to try out, is the API option. Just before we get into it, I'll just talk about some use cases here so you can start to get some ideas on how you want to use it. Let us know in the chat if you have any ideas, or perhaps if you've tried it out before, what you've been using it for. Keen to hear your thoughts. So first of all, something like inventory management. Perhaps if you're running a store and you need to know instantly what your current stock levels are. The example I'll take us through is around collecting survey responses. As people submit a form response, you can immediately see the feedback in your dashboard. Customer support and generating feedback around that. Web logs, and most importantly, used for IoT devices like your sensors, machinery, so you can see the current levels of this, and of course it updates in real time. So in the example I'll show us, feel free to follow along as well if you like. On my blog, I'll share the link at the end. I have this as an exercise I've written out if you want to go ahead and give it a go. So quite an easy and simple thing for you to build to test this out. What we'll do here is I want to create a push data set in Power BI to collect survey responses from Microsoft Forms. I'll use Power Automate to create a flow to link up to that form. Every time there's a new submission, I can see that now update in real time onto my dashboard. So we'll create some visuals that we can go and take a look at and add onto our dashboard to view. Let's take a look at how we can go and build this. I'll start off here in Microsoft Forms with a survey that I've created before. It's just a simple survey with 3 questions asking about feedback from some restaurant customers. So first one, we'll get a location of the restaurant they visited, how you'd rate the customer service, and then a space for comments as well. Over in Power BI now, we'll go ahead and we'll create a new streaming data set. So over here, we'll pick the API option, and we're going to create fields relating to each of those questions that I have in my form. So values here, I want to collect the restaurant location, customer service rating, what the time submission was. For the data types, I can pick text, number, date, time. And we want to turn historic data analysis on so we can go back and see what the values were back in time. We've now created that. That's all we need to do if we want to use it for Power Automate. So the next thing now is that we'll go over and create our flow for it. We'll launch Power Automate, and now we can perform the steps that we need to get that data and push it into Power BI for us. Since this is Microsoft Forms, I'll start off with my Forms trigger. Every time there's a new submission, it's going to collect that and send that over into my dataset. Of course, this could be anything. Maybe if you're building a dashboard around tweets, you might start off with, collect tweets, and then you can use that. You could even do something like bring the AI builder, into it as well if you wanted to. Maybe if you wanted to do some sentiment analysis as well. I'm adding in a step here for converting the time zone, just because in my report, I want to see the time that people submitted their response, and don't want that in UTC. I want that in my local time, so we can add that step in. Then to finish it off, we want to add in our Power BI action, which is going to now push the results over into our dataset. We can link it up to the workspace. We can pick that dataset that we just created. And then it's going to bring in each of those columns or fields that we had on our dataset. All we need to do here is just link it up now to those questions on the form, so it knows exactly what answer needs to go where and where it's stored. We can give it a go and test it out now, so let's go ahead and submit the form. The reason we do this as well is so that we have some data there to work with, because otherwise if we're building the report out and it's blank, it's a bit difficult to work with. Looks like it's worked, so we can now go back into Power BI. And on that data set, we have that Create Report option. Down the side, our fields are those ones that we created earlier, and we can now build our visuals from this like we typically would build a report out. So here I might do something like bringing our average customer service rating. I can put in a map to show me where the submissions are coming from, like what country they visited. A table showing the comments, and also something that can track the number of submissions that have gone through. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that we pin them onto a dashboard, because once again, the report won't update automatically. We need to make sure it's on a dashboard to be able to see that. So I've gone ahead and pinned this onto a dashboard I've created, and now it's good for us to test out. So you can see here, I'm going to go ahead and put in a bunch of feedback surveys. And as it's submitted, you can see the flow working in the background. It's taking the data from the form, pushing it onto the dashboard. And this is all without refreshing the screen, by the way. As the form submission runs, you can go ahead and then you can see it automatically update here. So a lot of cool stuff you can do with this. This is quite a simple form and a simple flow. Like I said, you can really add in as many actions or as many data points and things like that that you want to collect. I've tried this before using tweets. So, you can collect tweets that have gone through with a particular tag. You can then run it through something like the AI builder as well to get something like sentiment too. So a lot of creative things that you can do with this. Let us know if you're interested in trying this one out. Let's move on now to another Power Automate topic. And this is number 5, showing us what we can do with our data alerts and the triggers around this. Your alerts in Power BI, you can set these up on your dashboards on something that you want to keep track of. If you're using visuals like the KPI, gauge, or the card, if there's a number displayed, this is something you can set some parameters around. So, if a certain value or number is reached, or if it's under a value, you can get a notification sent to you. But all that does really is it sends you get a notification in Power BI, it then sends you an email. You can do a lot more with this by utilizing Power Automate and all those 470 plus connectors that are there. You can get creative with what you might want to run and what actions should occur based on a trigger running. So here are just some examples, simple one-step actions that can occur. And let's take a look at how we can go and create this. So over here in Power BI, I have my dashboard and I have this card visual. I want to go ahead and add an alert for this. I want it to let me know when a certain value has reached. It's gone above here. So by default, it will send me an email. But what we want to do is get some other actions to occur using Power Automate. So we can simply click there. It takes us to Power Automate. If you want to get some ideas, you can also check out the templates. I've just done a search here on Power BI Alert, so you can get some ideas on other things you might want to do. What I'll do here today for this example is that we'll take the alert and get a Teams message posted for us. Though this flow can really be as complicated or as simple as you need it to be. All you need to do is it links up, so it's got that trigger for when the alert kicks off. And now I'm going to build in my action for posting a message in a Teams channel. We can use dynamic content from that alert too, like a link that will direct people to the visual, what the name of it was as well. So you can sort of customize your flow that way. So in the background here, what I've done, I've gone ahead and put in some more data. You can see the alert has now been triggered. Typically, that's what you get. You get that, alert notification icon over the top of it. But now look at this, we've got our flow run. So it's taken some custom actions that we wanted to run based on that. And it's gone and posted our notification in Teams for us. As with any flow, you can also go back into it and then see the run history. Was it successful? What times did it run? So, full power of Power Automate here and what you can do. And last one, this is really my favorite one. It has become recently, number 7, the Power Automate visual that we can get now in Power BI. So it's been around for a while now, but I've noticed now that they've sort of changed the look of Power BI desktop to make it a bit more prominent for you to find and to use. Really a lot of capabilities and possibilities of things that you can build using this. It allows you to put a button directly in your report. So as users are interacting with your report, you can take the context of what you're looking at and then trigger some actions to occur. Once again, making use of all those 470 connectors that you get with Power Automate. This picture here is of the visual that's there for Power Automate, and it takes you through the steps on how to add it in. So first of all, you add data to it. This is data that you want your flow to use. Within Power BI itself, we have an embedded version of Power Automate where we can build the flow. We can then apply and share it with people and format the button so that it fits in a bit better. So in the example I'll show us, I'll be going back to that report that I've been using, and I want to put a button on my report that's going to take my data and then post it as a message in Teams for me. So by the way that you can add it is just in the top in the insert ribbon here. I've noticed they've recently added it in the view here. You notice there's also a Power Apps one too, so another interesting thing to go and check out. I won't show that one today, but go have a play around with it. You can embed like a Power App directly within your report too. So as people are looking at the report, using it, they can interact and take action using the Power App. But let's go over to the Power Automate one. Insert it in. And the first thing we want to do is put in the fields and the values that I want to use. So in this case, I have a measure for my revenue. Perhaps if I want to maybe send that off as an email to someone, a person in a Teams message. I've then also brought in the product category field. So in my flow, what I want to do is I want to use this information to post in a message. And we can see now how we can go and create that flow. When we edit that visual, we're now taken to Power Automate. There's some templates there to get you started. But what we'll do here is that we'll create the instant flow from scratch. And once again, you can make these as complex as you need. In this case, we're just going to do a simple one action for us here. So we've got our button pressed, and now based on that, we want a message to be posted in this channel. And within the message, we want to bring in content from our Power BI report. So we can see this dynamic content. Things like user ID, user email, timestamp. This is information that you can use throughout the flow that's taken from the person who triggered it in the first place, if that's something that you wanted to use. In this case, I want a message that's going to tell me what the revenue is for a particular product that I have. So I'll bring in my product dynamic content, the revenue, and you'll see what it will do is that it will put it in this control, apply to each. So for each product that's there, it's going to tell me what the revenue is and post a Teams message about it. So let's finish that off and then we can go ahead and give it a test. You also likely want to limit who's able to run the flow. If it's doing something important, like sending a lot of emails out, posting messages, there might only be specific people you want with the ability to do that. You can specify exactly who should have that capability and also who's an owner of it. Are there people who are able to edit that flow that you've made too? Now we can go ahead and customize the button a bit. I'll rename it so people know what they're going to do, post a Teams message, and maybe also change the color to make it Teams purple. What I've done here is I've gone ahead and I've clicked on one of the products that I have in my report. By filtering and drilling down into my report, you can see how the flow can take that context and apply it. I've clicked on Sofa. The message that's going to be posted in Teams now is only going to relate to my sofa product. If nothing was selected, it would run through each of my products and then post the message about each of them. So it's very context aware as well. Let's see it run. It's been triggered. Of course, you can go ahead and see the run history of the flow as well. And there we have it. Over here in Teams, we have the message posted. It's gone ahead, taken the revenue that was filtered around our sofa sales. Another thing that you can get creative with, I really am enjoying this one at the moment because, there are a lot of things that you can do with Power Automate, of course, and it puts that capability and those tasks directly where people are working within the report. So something that you can go and play around with and also have some fun with in your reports. So we've now come to the end of the session and I've taken us through some of my top picks of what I think are some of the less known or less mainstream features when it comes to Power BI. Let us know in the chat what you thought of it. Is there anything that you didn't know of before? Or perhaps if you had a play around with it. I'm happy to hear how you've been using this stuff, and it's something we can have a chat in the Q&A coming up next. To recap, this is what I've shown you in this session. We've taken a look at, first of all, Power BI goals, the app that you can get for Microsoft Teams, analyze in Excel capability, interesting ways you can use buttons, and looking at Power Automate, real-time streaming, triggering data alerts, and lastly, the Power Automate visual. So by the way, I mentioned before about that real-time streaming exercise that I have. Feel free to go ahead to my blog there. I've created like a lab exercise that you can work through to create your own real-time dashboard. I think it's good fun. It's quite easy as well. And it shows you how you can create that push data set and get Power Automate and Power BI to work together. So let me know if you're checking that out. I'm excited to see what you guys build using this stuff. Stay on now for some Q&A. I'm going to be online to answer your questions and have a chat with you around Power BI. Really looking forward to that and talking with you. So once again, thank you so much for coming along and watching this session. Hopefully you've enjoyed it and you've picked up on some tips and tricks that you can now take back with you and to start using. Let me know if you've watched this session. Once again, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and I'm also on Twitter too. Big thank you again to the Dynamics user group for putting on this conference, and we'll be with you shortly for Q&A. Hello, everyone.
That was awesome, Rishona. Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa. I'm going to help Rishona with some of the questions. So please, if you are still on the line, pop questions in the chat. We are live at this point. She's here to answer them.
Yeah, good to see that activity. And it looks like we have people from all over joining us here today. I'm based in Sydney, by the way. It's 11 p.m. for me and also for Lisa as well.
past my bedtime, that's for sure.
No, that's all right. I'm sure you get plenty of sleep after this. We
have
wouldn't
the
miss
global
Diana's
audience
for everything or anything.
So do you want to start by telling people, I mean, I obviously know a little bit about how you got into this, but your journey into Power BI and how you got into exploring all of this stuff?
Yeah, why not? So I started this it was a few years ago. I was working at a Microsoft partner, and it was actually dashboard in a day that I did first, which I think is probably the thing that most people do to get into this. So I did dashboard in a day, and then I was training people in it. And I moved to my current job with Lisa. Then I got into it a bit more. So I feel like now I can explore a bit more around the fun side of it and show people what they can do with it too. I mean, I even got a Power BI shirt out of it.
It's great when you get into that experimenting as well, isn't it? So what made you pick these? Like, I mean, there's 7 great features there. What made you pick those particular features for this?
Well, I run a lot of the dashboard in a day training. So when I do that with people, it's going through like the very standard features that you have in Power BI, what you need to do in order to connect your data, build a report, make your dashboard. But then there are all these other cool things that don't really get covered by it. Adds that wow factor to it if people know that they can do that, and it gives them something exciting that they can take a look at. So I picked these things because it goes beyond just the standard thing that you usually might do just to build a report out in Power BI. So I wanted to showcase that, there's some other cool things that you can add into your report and make it a bit exciting for when you are building this. And the Power Automate visual is probably my favorite one at the moment, as you probably could tell.
Yeah. Now, someone's just asked in the question in the chat here, Darlene, which is a really good one. Is there a practice or a trial or a low-cost way that you recommend to get started if people are on that journey and want to kind of get into this?
Yeah, so with your work account, you should already have access to Power BI. Power BI Desktop, it's free to go and download. So if you have a PC, you can just go and download it, search for Power BI Desktop, you can install it, start using it. If you want to publish what you've built, to use the things that I showed towards the end, actually goals is one of them, not towards the end. Actually, most of the features, goals, the stuff with Power Automate, then that's when you'll need either a premium account or your work account, so you can connect to the online side of it. But if you build a report in desktop, you publish it out, you can just do that with your usual work account until you want to invite other people and get them to collaborate with you. Then that's when you'll need the paid license for it. If you don't have a work account, then you can sign up for like a Office trial. If you just Google like Microsoft Office trial, sign up for that, then for 30 days you can pretty much try it out for free if you want to give that a go.
And I think Fernando's popped in the chat there, there's also a developer account. And Darlene also asked about a cost for using Azure and so on. Yes, once you start consuming Azure resources, it's it's hard to do that with a trial.
Yeah.
There is actually a limited trial, like you can get a very small, like a one-off sort of, I can't remember offhand how much it is, but you can get a little one to sort of get started. But
yeah, I know there is like a sort of small trial you can get for it, so it's an opportunity to test it out at least.
Yeah, exactly. Tell me about, I was fascinated with this bit of the team. I mean, I love all this Power BI embedded in Teams, and that report, which I'm going to rush off and try tomorrow in our Teams tenant, when you checked your Teams activity in Power BI, what did you find out?
I checked it again now because I wanted to see how it changed. Last time I did it was probably a few months ago, and then again, I think it came out earlier in the year. I think it was like 90 hours I've spent in meetings in the last 90 days, but I'm not sure if that's high or low. I need someone to compare it to. So if anyone has their own results that they think were pretty shocking and quite high, then let us know so I have something to compare against.
You run all day training though, so I suspect those are counted as very long meetings, right?
I think the camera time and the screen sharing time was quite high.
Yeah, probably more than most, I would say.
But yeah, let us know what other people get, so I know if mine is something weird or if it's low compared to what other people get. But actually, it's quite interesting. Like, it was good to see because you can also see like how many messages you've posted and things like that too.
And you've mentioned your blog a few times there. For anyone still watching, I would highly endorse and recommend you go check that out. Rishona actually pretty much runs training full time, so her ability to explain stuff really clearly, and the blog is quite new, but there's some awesome stuff in there. What's inspiring you with your blog?
I've been trying to add a lot of stuff on there because I feel like when I get an idea, I just sit there and I start writing it and I get really into it. So it's growing. I feel like I'm trying to do like a couple things at least each week. Most of it at the moment, it is Power BI. So there is a Power BI exercise that I linked in the chat there, which is that real-time streaming one. It only takes 20 minutes.
You're giving people homework out of the session is what you're doing.
Maybe. Some people might enjoy the homework. I thought it was interesting.
I didn't say it was a bad thing.
Do it yourself or pass it on to someone else to do. But yes, I guess it is homework, something you can do after the session. But yeah, it's pretty easy. It's only like 20 minutes. You can build the real-time dashboard. It's like I tried to make it like the training that you follow along step by step, but I realized it takes a long time for me to make that. So I might do follow along videos instead of documents where I need to copy and paste everything. There's Power BI on the blog, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with Power Virtual Agents and the other Power Platform tools, but if not, then I guess it's a good opportunity to go and discover it. I really like Power Virtual Agents, so I have a lot of that on my blog too, where you can build your own bot. Yeah.
And I think we might be able to fit in one last question here from Joel. We're going to get wrapped up in about 3 minutes. So Joel has asked, have you come across any other cool scenarios for the push data scenario other than forms? I liked that.
You can really use anything instead of forms. I use forms as an example because I feel it's the most accessible for anyone, because I mean most of us already have access to forms, and it's something you can just test immediately. I've tried it with Twitter before. I've done it with like a tweet getting posted based on certain keywords that are being used, but then of course to test it out, you need to wait till someone tweets with the keyword.
See, here's and the then secret, also, Rishona. What you do is you do a fake tweet and you use the hashtag demo tweet. There's a bunch of us who do that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Because otherwise you do have to wait for it. So I've done hashtag demo tweet. You'll find, if you do hashtag demo tweet, you'll find the community supporting your tweet. Don't worry.
Oh, okay. Learned something new today. So yeah, if you want to try it out with Twitter, use the demo tweet example. And then I also added in like an AI builder step. If you're on a trial, you can try that out for free. So I think I tried it out with, I got the tweet to come through, ran it through the AI builder sentiment analysis, and then it comes up with the score if it was negative or something nice that the tweet was saying. Excellent. But really, you can use it for anything. If you can build it in Power Automate and connect to it. I've even done it with Excel before, just on a spreadsheet. I just wanted to send it off into my push data set or whatever the source is. You can connect to it from there.
All right. We've got 1 minute to go, Rishona. What are your top resources to leave people with for learning or taking the next step here?
I shared a link to the data stories gallery that's on the Power BI community. Someone mentioned to me, and I looked at it, someone in the community made like a Harry Potter, what's it called? Escape room on there that I discovered.
Okay, which seemed pretty cool. Out too now.
So check out the gallery. I realized there are actually some really cool things that people are making that go beyond just reports that are there. So check out the gallery. If you're getting started with it, like I can see a few of us here today, try the dashboard in a day training, which takes you through like the full day hands-on lab to try out Power BI. And check out Microsoft Learn as well. Of course, that's where you go for your certifications and that more self-paced training around Power BI.
All right, I reckon that's our time. Thank you so much for the session. It was great. And to everyone who's commented in the chat and joined in with us today, well done, Rishona.
I really enjoyed that. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming along. And thank you, Lisa, for first of all, staying up past your bedtime.
That's what we do, right?
For joining me on this session today. And enjoy the rest of the conference, everyone.